The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and do not reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
BronxNet. Your voice, your views, your vision.
Hello and welcome to Open, the one and only show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world right to you. I'm your guest host, Cristina Pagan, filling in for Darren Jaime. And today we'll update you on what's happening in and around the world. First up, we'll continue our Law A to Z series with the letter G, giving you all the information you need to know about guardianship. After that, in time for tax season, we'll hear from two organizations that have come together to provide Bronxites with free tax services. Next, nation's longest publishing Spanish language daily newspaper will be celebrating their 100th year running, and we'll find out about the significant role they play in our community. Plus, we'll sit down with an organization working for all Bronxites to have safe and affordable housing. And finally, several schools around the Bronx are at risk of closing. We'll hear from an educator fighting to save our schools. So stay tuned. All this and much more is headed your way because we are now officially open. Hello Bronxites, I'm your host Cristina Pagan. Today is Wednesday, January 30th, 2013. Of course, you're watching Open, the only live and interactive program that brings the Bronx and New York City straight to your TV set. We want to hear from you, so tweet us during the broadcast at BronxNet TV, and we'll air your opinions during the show. In today's edition of our Legal Corner, we will continue our Law A to Z series with guardianship, specifically how to go about being given guardianship over a loved one or their personal property. We welcome David Lesh.
Good morning, Christina. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Nice to see you. You know, it was very easy with respect to the letter G to pick guardianship because many of my clients, especially with an aging population, come to me and ask me, well, how do I go about having a guardian appointed over the person or property of my loved one? It could be a mother, it could be a grandmother, it could be a friend, doesn't really matter. You start to find that at some point in your life, your loved ones are starting to become forgetful. They're making mistakes with their monies, or sometimes they're just giving away their money or making bad investments, or they're just not taking good care of them. They're not taking care of themselves. They're not taking their medicines. So you don't just go into court and put a power of attorney in and make yourself a guardian over your mom or over your grandmother. It's a much more complicated process. So this morning I'm going to talk a little bit about what's called the Article 81 proceeding. It's a hearing that establishes a permanent guardian over somebody who is what's deemed to be incapacitated in the law. What usually happens is, somebody will end up many times in a nursing home. There may not even be anybody to make their medical decisions for them, and the nursing home themselves will actually bring a petition. Or it could be the person still in the community. You could be living with your mother or your grandmother, and you're like, you know what, I think I have to take over all these responsibilities. So you yourself will bring what's called a petition. In the petition, you generally allege all the different things that your mother or your grandmother, whoever it is, cannot do, and you have to put it in very big print so the person will be able to read it. Then you serve your loved one with these papers, and in that, you basically say that there's going to be a hearing, you have a right to be at the hearing, and at that time, the judge is going to make a determination as to whether or not you need a guardian, because I think you do. Right? Mm-hmm. Now, of course, if the person consents, that's a lot easier. If the person, pretty much agrees, look, I need your help. I'd like you to help me make all my decisions. We'll do a power of attorney. We'll do something. That will generally help speed the process along. But more often than not, with these guardianship issues, the person does not consent. When they get into the 80s, into the 90s, people are very, wary about letting somebody else take over their finances or things like that. So they're like, no, I'd like to make my own decisions, but you can tell that they're not able to. Okay. So there usually becomes some type of internal conflict that goes on. Mm-hmm. When the judge gets the petition, and you're alleging that this person needs a guardian, the judge will appoint what's called a court evaluator. That's a separate entity, person, to evaluate and make recommendations for the court at the hearing. I've been a court evaluator myself on hundreds of cases. And you'll go to the nursing home or you go to the person's house and you'll introduce yourself to the AIP, the alleged incapacitated person, and say, look, I'm here to tell you that there's a petition being brought to have a guardian appointed for you. I don't know what your feelings are about it, but the first thing I want to tell you is that you have the right to have your own lawyer. It's very important that you say that. You have a right to a lawyer. Would you like a lawyer? And the person will say, yes. If the answer is yes, then I'll say, fine, I'm going to interview you, but we're going to get you a lawyer to make sure that you have somebody who's going to be representing you at the hearing. Many times they say, I don't want a lawyer. Or sometimes they can't even speak, but they can at least hear what you have to say. If they definitely don't want a lawyer, you start with the interview. And you basically say some very preliminary questions like, do you know your name? Your date of birth? Do you have any kids? What are their names and ages? What did you used to do for a living before you ended up here? What did you do? And you ask some questions, and sometimes you get immediate answers, which tells you this person definitely needs a guardian. Other times, it seems like, well, their answers seem to be fairly coherent. They seem to get most of it. So then you move to the part about the guardianship. Do you want a guardian? Would you like somebody to help you with your decisions? Who? Does your son come to visit you? Does your daughter come to visit you? How often? Do you trust your daughter? Do you trust your son? Do you have any friends who come? Maybe the person didn't have any kids. Do you have any friends? Okay. Well, I would just want you to know you're going to have a hearing in about 3 weeks. I need you to come there. I need you to be there. The nursing home will bring you, or your daughter or son-in-law, whoever it is, will bring you. And while you're there, I want you to tell the judge that you met me and that we had a discussion, because I'm going to give some testimony myself, and we're going to have a whole group at the hearing, and we're going to make some decisions for you. What ends up happening is, this happens a lot, at the hearing, which is about 3 weeks later, the person doesn't remember me. Doesn't remember meeting me, doesn't remember talking to me, which is a clear indication that the person would be in the need of a guardian. Now, at this hearing, at this guardianship hearing, you don't just have the testimony of the person who says that the mother or grandmother needs the guardian, but you need medical testimony. You need a doctor, not just an affidavit, but somebody who's going to come and testify. Could be a psychiatrist, a psychologist, anybody, a neurologist, anyone who's able to testify and say, look, I've evaluated this particular person and she's suffering from dementia, Alzheimer's, schizophrenia, could be anything. And because of that, she's not able to make her decisions over her person, and that means her decisions about medical treatment, or her property, her monies, her house. And I recommend, as the doctor, that we have a guardian appointed over her personal property. Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to automatically happen. It means that the judge now will decide, based on the testimony of the people who come at the hearing, whether or not the person does need a guardian, and who that guardian should be. Generally, what the judge will do, will have the person who's been proposed as the guardian, somebody that I might recommend. I might recommend the son-in-law, or somebody in the community who's come to visit. I'll recommend this particular person, and I'll say, well, Christina, why doesn't Christina take the stand? Why don't you take the stand, please, and tell the judge why you think you would be a good guardian. Right. We'll go back and forth. If this person needed a lawyer and asked for a lawyer, that lawyer will cross-examine you as to why you really should or should not be the guardian. And the judge will either make the decision on the bench and say, yes, I believe that Jane Doe is in need of a guardian over her personal property, and I think the son or son-in-law should be guardian, boom. Or she'll reserve decision. And within a month or 2 months, you'll get a decision saying, yes, this person needs a guardian or doesn't need a guardian, which opens up an entire new area, and that's the guardian, and what the responsibilities are of the guardian. Right. And I don't know how much time we have, but I'll go through a little of it.
Yeah,
okay.
1 more minute.
1 more minute? I'll give you a minute. Okay. Very important responsibility to be a guardian. Many times it's not a loved one. It's a friend. It could even be an attorney and someone who's on the list. I've been the guardian for at least 5 to 10 people because there's nobody else. And I'm on a list, and I'll be appointed, and I'll have to manage the money. And unfortunately, when they pass away, I have to bury them and distribute the assets. When you're a guardian, you have certain rules that you have to follow. You have to make sure you visit the incapacitated, because it's no longer an alleged incapacitated, it's an incapacitated because it's been a court proceeding. You have to visit them at least 4 times a year. You have to write reports for the court once a year telling them what your correspondence, what you've done with their funds, how you've invested it, and generally just what's been going on. Who's going to check for you on what you're doing? A court examiner, another lawyer, somebody else who's going to oversee your own reports and is going to make those reports to the judge. So, in a nutshell, don't know how much time we have left, but I can tell you this, that if you feel that that your loved one needs a guardian, it's not enough that you put a power of attorney in front of them and say, sign it, I can take over all the things for you now. You have to bring this Article 81 proceeding. It's fairly involved. You should get yourself an attorney to do it. Make sure that you think about who would be a good guardian for this person, and then take the steps to locate where all the assets are, because you're going to have to list them all for the court in the proceeding, and it's a very important process, and it could be very difficult to have these conversations with somebody who's approaching that age and doesn't want to give up control of their lives. But it's something that you should be discussing, with your family, with your friends, and when you finally get to that point, make sure that you bring that Article 81 proceeding, because it does take some time to get that, as you can see, to get that final guardian appointed and for that person to marshal the assets.
That sounds like a really long process from
It is.
point A to point Z.
And in 2 weeks, we do letter H. I'll let you pick it.
Ooh, I'm excited. We have to take a quick break, but coming up, we'll hear about free tax preparations right here in the Bronx, so stay tuned.
I remember how much you said you liked mine. Oh.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of siblings in foster care who'll take you just as you are.
Hey, how's it going?
Sir, are you okay?
What? Oh, this? It's probably nothing. I'm sure it'll go away.
Go away? But, sir, that can't be good.
No, it's cool. Really.
Do you want a napkin or something?
Everything's fine. Thanks.
You wouldn't ignore this. So why ignore the signs of a stroke? At the first warning signs, call 911 immediately, because time lost is brain lost.
Hands can do incredible things. Now they can even help save a life with hands-only CPR. If you see an adult suddenly collapse, just call 911, then push hard and fast in the center of the chest until help arrives. Learn more at handsonlycpr.org.
This is so cool, Dad. This is so cool, Dad.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of siblings in foster care who'll take you just as you are.
So here are the keys. Congratulations, it's officially yours. I'm sure you'll have many happy years here. Except for you, because you'll be gone 3 years from now, struck down by the same disease that got your father. So you won't be around for them. And sadly, it could have been detected early with a simple test, but you didn't have it. Okay, who wants to check out the backyard?
For a list of tests every man should have, go to ahrq.gov.
Hello, welcome back to Open. I'm your host, Cristina Pagan. Ridgewood Savings Bank has come together with Arriva, an organization that uses a program instituted by the IRS to provide Bronxites with free tax services. Here to share more about these services and how to prepare your taxes is Assistant Branch Manager of the Ridgewood Savings Bank, Shakazi, and Director of Arriva, Diana R. Breen. Welcome, guys.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Good, good. So first of all, what is Arriva?
Arriva is a nonprofit. We're based in the Bronx, and we serve low-wealth individuals, low-wealth New Yorkers, with a myriad of financial services. Free tax preparation, financial education, and financial education and match savings products, and links to low-cost bank accounts like those at Ridgewood.
And how did the partnership between Ridgewood and Arriva begin? When did it begin? What kind of partnership do you have exactly?
Well, as a community bank, it was an easy decision for us to partner up with Arriva to help Bronx residents in our neighborhood file free taxes.
And what was the benefit with the Ridgewood as opposed to like a Citibank or a Chase?
Well, they're great too. They're some of our funders. But, you know, it's very important to us that when we refer our clients to a bank or a financial institution, that it does have a community focus, because we want them to get a low cost or free account. We're not an organization that refers people to, you know, $12 a month accounts. And frankly, our clients just can't afford it. So this partnership was very natural and organic, because our clients can go to Ridgewood, and even if they don't have a bank account yet, they can go there, they can open a low-cost checking or savings account, and then they can have their taxes returned, prepared for free, and have it directly deposited, so that makes the refund quicker, and they don't have to pay to get the check cashed.
I love a direct deposit. I have that myself. Who is eligible for this kind of assistance?
Well, with individuals who's earning less than $25,000, they could have the filing done for free, and people that were dependents, they could file with $50,000 or less.
Do they have to be Ridgewood Savings Bank members, or can they be anybody?
It could be any Bronx residents. If you need, I could tell you the dates.
We'll get to that in a minute. So what kind of paperwork do Bronxites need to bring with them? What kind of information to these sessions?
Well, you know, wherever you do your taxes, and we hope people do it with Arriva at Ridgewood, but wherever you do your taxes, it's really important that you bring a Social Security card for yourself and everyone on your return. And you really shouldn't go to any place that doesn't ask you for that. There's a lot of ID theft out there. You got to be careful. Also, you need to have all your tax documents. So all your W-2s, all your 1099s, if you're a student and you paid student loan interest, your 1098, all of your tax documents. You should also bring photo ID. If you have a bank account, you should bring your bank account number and your routing number for that direct deposit. Okay. And there are tax credits out there. So for instance, if you have children under the age of 12, you might be eligible for the child care credit. So you want to bring child care documentation. That's the amount that you pay the child care provider and their tax ID number.
So where can Bronxites go to get these services?
Well, we're starting February. They're all Saturday sessions. The very first one is on Saturday, February 2nd at our Joram Avenue location. The second one is on February 16th on our White Plains Road location. Third one